how they can support teachers. The replay will only be on YouTube. It will be on Facebook, and it will be on LinkedIn. Did you mean to send me a request, girl? Because sometimes when you go in, it makes you like want to automatically do a request. And I'll be like, I don't want a request to be in these people's video. But it does that, which is really weird. But anyway, I'm about to get on. So y'all join me. Again, LinkedIn, I'm Melanie Battles. YouTube, I know you didn't, sis. YouTube, I'm at Teaching from the Soul. Facebook, I'm at Scholars for the Soul. Love y'all. See y'all there. Peace. Hello, everybody. Hello. Dr. Mel here. I am here today with our first of a few series. So like I plan on going live within LinkedIn. I plan on going live within Facebook and YouTube for like the next couple of months. We are in the 2023 school year, 2023-24. And so there are a lot of things that we're working on. I am working with teachers and I am already hearing how they are exhausted. I am already hearing how they are over it. And y'all, we are only at the end of September. We got quite a few more months left to go. So we want to make sure that as leadership, you are really giving the people what they need to be successful. You are really be giving the people what they need to really push the framework of culturally responsive teaching. If you're not pushing culturally responsive teaching as your ways of being, if you're not pushing how to embed equity within your frameworks, within the way you lead, within the way you are, within the way you engage folks, you're going to be missing the mark, okay? So if you're in here, give me a hey, what's up in the chat. Tell me where you're from. If you're a leader, what is your role in schools? Because I want to know what kind of people I'm talking to today, okay? Because sometimes we get so caught up in doing our work that we forget to align our work with values, forget to align our work with the reasons and choices for what we do. So we want to start back, right? I want to get us back on the goal for understanding the role that we play, right? So let's get this party started. Give me one. All right, I'm back. I had to clean my camera. It was a little bit blurry. All right, so we are back and we are about to get this party started. I want to introduce myself for those who have never watched. I know I've got people watching on LinkedIn, people watching on YouTube, people watching on Facebook, and my voice is a bit raspy. I've had a very full weekend of some great things traveling. I had church today, so it's been a really busy weekend. And so my voice is a little raspy, but I am still here to serve the people. I am still here to give us what we need so that we can be successful. So to start us off, my name is Dr. Melanie Battles. I am from Arkansas. I am housed here in Little Rock, Arkansas. And a part of the work that I do is I am, number one, a lifelong learner. I will always be a lifelong learner. I will always be one who takes in culturally responsive teaching as my way of being, and cultural humility as the lens through which I explore new understandings of this work, right? Because we've got young people that are evolving all the time, young people that are changing all the time. One thing I always hear is these kids are different, right? These kids are not like what we used to be like. But guess what? When you were a kid, they said the same thing. These kids are different. And it will always be that narrative because culture is always evolving. So in my work as a lifelong learner, I am always seeking to learn not new ways of being, but the most effective ways of being as we engage with our adults who are supervising or providing support for other adults, which are you, the leadership, and those who are serving our young people, which could be the teachers, the educational staff, the teacher aides, the paraprofessionals, the counselors. All of these people matter. Anybody who has contact with your children in the building, they matter. So I am a consultant and I'm a coach. That's the most vital role that I love the best in the work that I do, is that I coach educators. I coach leadership into how you are forming systems and spaces in your school building where students feel like they belong. Students know that they belong. Students feel valued. Their ways of being are prized and endorsed. But that only happens, you all, when we support the adults who are working with them. If you're not supporting your teachers, if you're creating harder systems and ways of being for your teachers, you're making it hard for them to connect with young people. So we know that retention is an issue in our schools. We know that getting teachers to stay on the job, getting teachers to engage with young people without putting them out of the classroom is a challenge. And for my assistant principals and principals, I know many of you are sick of teachers sending out students to come to your office. And then if you don't write them up, or if you don't suspend them or put them in ISS or give them detention or do what the teacher wants, now we've got tension. Now we've got problems. Now we've got conflict in the building. And that begins to decrease teacher morale and increase teacher burnout. But that's what we're talking about. Over these next few weeks, we're going to really be breaking down culturally responsive school leadership. I don't have my book right with me, but a great motivator for the work that I do with leaders is the text, Culturally Responsive School Leadership by Muhammad Khalifa. If you don't have that text, I highly recommend that you get that text. It is a very, very vital eye opener to the way in which you are as a leader in schools and youth facing organizations. So today's topic is the journey towards cultural responsiveness. And who is this for? This is for leaders who are working with our students, particularly our Black and Brown students, our immigrant students, our first generation students, students with cultural, linguistic, and neurodivergent backgrounds. You got to be able to support the teachers who are working with these babies, because everything they learned in their teacher prep classroom did not prepare them for the kids they have before you. That's why you see some of the issues that you do with your teachers and students, because they are not fully equipped and fully prepared to handle the diversity that is in their classroom. And the diversity happens when you talk about different ways of culture. And culture is just the way we have formed norms that help us create meaning in our minds. Okay. So if you want to see academic growth, which I believe every educational leader wants and needs to see academic growth happen in your school building. If you're not focused on academic growth, I don't know what you're doing as a leader. We've got to get back to focusing on academic growth. And beside that, not behind it, right beside academic growth is social emotional learning development. What is social emotional learning development? The way in which your young people and the adults who serve them are mentally and spiritually well. The way they know how to handle conflict, the way they know how to work in teams, the way they know how to cooperate and be in harmony, even if there is disagreement. But growth only happens when you have an internal target for growth. So that's what we're going to talk about, is this journey. What does this look like for you as the leader? So often leaders don't have a lot of time to focus on themselves. So often you don't have a lot of time to focus on your personal and your professional growth, because you're caught in the mundane. You're caught in the everyday tasks, which are important, which are needed from your district leaders. And so we want to focus on how will you embrace this journey. So the goal of this live is to help facilitate a journey that will take you from lacking the confidence and competence on your next steps as a culturally responsive school leader to giving you bite-sized content, okay? I can't cover everything in an hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but I'm going to do my best to give you bite-sized content that will be the shining light for your next steps on this journey towards cultural responsiveness. So, what are some of the outcomes that I have developed for you? Number one, help you to grasp the concept of cultural responsiveness in educational leadership, not just culturally responsive teaching, culturally responsive leadership. And why is this important? And how does this look in everyday practice? Because I know you are sick and tired of the same webinars, the same PDs that give you all these theories and ideas, but no practicality. We're going to focus on practicality as well. Another objective, another outcome that we have for this live is to highlight the journey of growth and challenges that come with becoming a culturally responsive leader. So I want everybody to take into their heart and soul today, right, that you are becoming a culturally responsive leader, right? That is your goal. I am becoming, say that to yourself. I am on the journey to becoming a culturally responsive leader. If you're on the journey, type I'm on the journey in the comments. I need to see you. Type I'm on the journey in the comments, because this is what you need so you can see opportunities for growth. So, what is culturally responsive school leadership? What is culturally responsive school leadership? Let's get into it. When you talk about that, Muhammad Khalifa outlines that as the ability of educational institutions, right? That's our schools, that's our districts, that's our state education boards. It is the ability of them, the leaders and the teachers, to recognize, these are three key words. So if you're taking notes, jot these words down: recognize, respect, and effectively address the diverse cultural backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives of students and their families. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again because I know you need it. What is culturally responsive school leadership? It is the ability of educational institutions, leaders like yourself, and the teachers that you support to recognize, respect, and effectively address the diverse cultural backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives of students and their families. That means if you recognize their diverse cultural background, experience, and perspectives, you see them. So, do you see? Are you creating space to, first of all, see the adults that you're working with in all of their diversity, in all of their genius, in all of their creativity? Do you recognize them? Do they have a voice in your staff meetings? Or is it just you and whoever is on the agenda only talking? And the people on the agenda are other leaders or consultants? Are you creating space to respect the diversity? Right? So, respect means that I'm creating a space where what you say matters, who you are matters, how you engage matters. And how do I show my respect? I create professional learning communities that reflect that diversity. Everything is not a sit and get. Everything is not, we're going to give you this information from the top down because we believe we know better than you. There's a collaboration that happens because we respect your perspective in the classroom. We respect your perspective on life. We respect your perspective on how you engage with young people, right? And then lastly, I effectively address those backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. So, what does that look like, leadership? What does that look like, leadership? That means we don't ignore the needs of the people that we're serving, the adults. We don't ignore their needs. We actually use their needs as a research point, right? So if you see a lot of teachers are sending kids out of the classroom, that's something we need to be researching. We need to be researching the why. We need to be researching the context. We need to be observing the environment of the classroom. We need to be taking anecdotal notes when we observe. We need to be getting feedback from the teacher and the student, because that's going to help us create a holistic perspective to effectively address their perspectives, their experiences, right? What is involved in this? If you're a culturally responsive school leader, you are focus on creating an inclusive and equitable learning environment. Period. Inclusive and equitable. Equitable is not equality. Equity does not equal equality. Equity means there is diversity that I actually welcome. I radically welcome the diverse ways of being, the diverse ways of thinking, the diverse ways of doing, because I understand that diversity is what we need to come to well-rounded solutions, right? And this is a space where if we're doing the inclusivity and we're creating an equitable learning environment for the adults, guess what's going to happen? It's going to trickle down where every student feels valued, every student feels respected, and every adult feels, every student feels understood in respect to their cultural, ethnic, linguistic, or even their socioeconomic background. Are y'all hearing me? Are y'all hearing me? You're going to see these things because what happens is now the the teachers that you're serving, the support staff that you're serving, the counselors that you're serving are now embodying a culturally responsive way of being because they're getting it from you first. See, the buck starts with you, leadership. It starts with you. You're creating these spaces in your school building where this is the way we do teaching and learning from the top down. And I hate saying top down, but we're in a more hierarchical way of being in our school systems in this American society. So when I say top down, I mean from the district leadership to the school leadership, right? To the teacher and department leadership, to the club leadership, all the way to the teachers in the classroom, the aides in the classroom, the paraprofessionals in the classroom, down to the students. They embody it, they model it, and they share it, which is our prize framework at Scholars for the Soul, which is my educational consulting firm where we work on this strategically with teachers and leaders. Another part of culturally responsive school leadership. So we got the ability to recognize, respect, and address diversity. We've got creating inclusive and equitable learning environments for both the adults and the students. And then we've got adapting teaching methods, curriculum, and policies. Adapting teaching methods, curriculum, and policies. The big word there is adapting. Why do we need to adapt? To meet the unique needs and identities of each student. Because what is that going to lead us to? Help eliminate disparities in educational outcomes. We're going to see the gaps close. What kind of gaps are you talking about, Dr. Mill? The instructional equity gaps. Now, I didn't come up with that word. I got that from the Soretta Hammond. She talks about instructional equity gaps as the foundation for why we see problems in behavior, for why we see problems in student engagement and in academic outcomes. We've got to up the ante when we're talking about high quality and engaging instruction. Okay. Now, the last part of culturally responsive school leadership, it promotes cultural humility. I do a whole session, schools, and even with organizations. I did one with the organization that provides professional development to teachers, right? And we talked about cultural humility versus competence. And the reason we stick with cultural humility is because that framework brought by two Black women in, I think it's Los Angeles in California, who were doctors during the Rodney King riot. And they were experiencing a gap of service between their physicians and the patients because the patients didn't feel like they were being heard, they were valued, or even their perspectives were respected, right? Because the doctors have been to school, they know all the things, they know your life better than your own. Some of us may can connect with that, right? Going to doctor's office, you get very little time to put your input in. Why? Because there's this idea that even if I went to a class that taught me about culture, that taught me about diversity, I still think I know it with competence, right? Because that means that I reject the nuances in culture. Culture is not a monolith. Black culture, there are not all Black people that act the same. Arabic culture, they don't, even if they share the same religion, don't all act the same, right? Culture has nuances. And in cultural humility, you take the stance of a lifelong learner who is positioned to help address and disrupt disparities in wherever field you are. And so we're talking specifically about education. Okay. So this last framework again promotes cultural humility, empathy, and a commitment to social justice in education. That means social justice, meaning all young people in all of their diversity, their differences, their beauty, whether culturally, linguistically, or neuro typically versus divergent, in all the differences, there is justice in education. What does justice look like? Everyone getting what they need, right? Despite the social ills that they face every day. They are receiving a thorough and equitable education. So that's culturally responsive leadership in a nutshell, right? That's what it is. So now, with the topic of this live being about the journey towards cultural responsiveness, especially as a leader, you got to start with understanding it's a journey. I know there are some who just began this work as a leader. You may be in year 1, 2, or 3, and there are certain things that people say you should do in year 1 versus year 2 and 3. And I agree with many of those frameworks. But the biggest thing is understanding that you are on a journey. So I need you to understand the need for you to commit to the marathon and not the sprint. Commit to the marathon and not the sprint. I say this so often with teachers when I'm working with culturally responsive teaching because we want to see instant results. And if we don't see something instant, because this is what education has painted the picture for us, and which education is a microcosm of our larger society, meaning it's a little mini representation of the world, right? Our society as an American society, for sure, is this idea for microwave results. We want a microwave. And if things don't happen right then and there, we let it go. And that's why teachers don't want to jump on board when you talk about something new. Even though this cultural responsiveness should always be the way of being. It may be new, but it should never be new again. If it's new for your school, it should never be new again. It should be ongoing, right? Because you're learning along the journey of the different ways to impact the young people that you serve. And our country is so diverse that we've been working in this one system of educating people. And it's not really about educating people. It has become to be about schooling people. I'm going to school you on the way I want you to behave, the way I believe teaching should be, the things I believe you should learn. And it looks one way. It's typically connected to this framework of whiteness, right? Not white people, whiteness. What does that mean? You think about these traits of white supremacy culture, and two of them consistently come up, right? I was doing a workshop in Massachusetts with the whole staff on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging at a private school of all white staff. All white staff, except I think there may have been 2 to 3 who were of Asian descent and biracial or multiracial. Otherwise, they were all white staff members, teachers, principals, assistant principals. And guess what their student population looked like? I'm not guessing on this. I actually had a teacher pull up their roll, and they had beautiful little faces of all these children. And I looked at all the colorful faces on their roster. And then I looked at the names. And in Massachusetts, it's in the Boston area. There's a large immigration um, residency there, right? Population there. So they had people from Cambodia. They had people from different parts of Asia. They had different people from different parts. I'm sorry, I meant to say of Africa. All these different spaces. Then African American children. All these diverse faces in their classroom, but it didn't reflect in their teaching staff. So what does that mean? That could be a whole nother conversation about recruiting and retaining people of color to lead and to teach. But for the sake of where I was, it took us to a space of understanding we've got to unpack some of these norms in our society, like the sense of urgency, like perfectionism, like either or thinking, right and wrong thinking, when you think about ways to teach and ways that people learn. Because what those things do is serve up gaps on a silver platter. You come in like a butler or like the serving and waiting staff, and you got gaps on the platter. Why? Because we haven't unpacked these ways of being that have become the norm. So when we understand that you're on a journey, it means over time, it's going to take you investing in your own growth. It's going to take a commitment to a journey of lifelong learning. So you can't go into school spaces with your big old degrees thinking you know everything. And I mean, you know everything apart from the knowledge and expertise and funds of knowledge of the students and families that you serve, right? So even in leadership, you are pushing the narrative that I can't do this by myself. I can't. I can't do this by myself. Doing this by myself leaves me isolated. It leaves me feeling overwhelmed. It leaves me frustrated. It leaves me feeling overworked and underpaid, which may be actually a real reality, right? But you have all these experiences that come from not understanding that this is a journey that I need to be in community with other folks about. So, what does this look like? Because we talk about community, but are your families, are your students, are your teachers involved in choosing the curriculum, or do you just hand it to them? Are they involved in deciding what's the instructional focus for this quarter, or do you choose it for them? Are they involved in the mission and vision of the school or the district? Are they involved in deciding what the values are for your building? Are they a part of the decision-making matrix in your building? And that's for everything, right? Because when you understand that you're a lifelong learner, that means I've got to learn from somebody. I can't only learn from myself. I can't only go and get these degrees. I can't only go and get these certifications. I can't only go to these conferences and represent my district, represent my school, and bring all my knowledge back and not think I need to learn from the people I'm working with. You've got to be on the journey. So I've got a client that I worked with for a year. We had a year-long relationship and we're still continuing our work. But she is a social emotional learning director. So she was over the social worker staff. She worked with counselors, and her job, one of her important tasks in her building was to formulate ways of being around social emotional learning development. So I did a few retreats and workshops with her staff that she directly supervised. And I also did year-long coaching with her, which was very important because one of the things that made the difference, I'm telling you, it made all the difference to our success as a coach and as a client was her eagerness and desire for coaching and to learn. She understood her gaps. She understood where she needed to grow. She understood, even with all her knowledge, her master's degrees, her 15 plus years in education, she understood I still have learning to do. That was the first step. She recognized that she didn't have all the answers, right? And she recognized that she needed support. She needed mentorship. She needed coaching to help lead her in that way. And that's how our relationship began. She came to me not as an empty slate, but in her mind, she came to me as one who was open and ready to learn. And so what did that do? That helped us because a lot of the things that we had to work on were emotional resilience and emotional intelligence. She had to recognize she was taking on too much. She was doing roles that were not a part of her assigned duties or duties as assigned, as we see in a lot of contracts. She recognized that there was so much that she was taking on that she wasn't able to actively serve her team. So what did we work on? Advocating, advocating for herself, getting out the list of things that she needed to do, and strategically planning along the year how to grow her knowledge base, how to grow her capacity, because I also provided her with an online course on building your social emotional learning development. So she was able to go in and learn some things from what the research says, from what practitioners have been doing on social emotional learning. Castle was one of our biggest sources. And we use that information, right? Because now we develop her firm foundation. Now we're able to work with her on how to lead her team. One of my favorite books, and I'm gonna show it to you all. The Art of Coaching Teams. You see, I got a few little tabs in here by Alina Aguilar. One of my frameworks. I don't go into this work. See, this is what I want to make everybody understand. Even though people hire me to come into the space, right? I've got experience. I've been in education more than 10 years. I've been working with over 850 teachers. I've been doing this private practice for 3 years now as a private practice, but I was coaching when I was in the school district, right? I was helping in leadership, doing those things to facilitate spaces where we can see our students grow, conducting research in the building. But even with all of that expertise on my end, I still had to take the space as a learner. I still have to look at the people who are out here publishing books that are frameworks and reflections of real time experiences with developing capacity. I still have to go back to the principles of adult learning theory. I still have to understand andragogy and what it means to bring in relevant experiences for our teachers and our leaders so that what we're doing is not abstract, right? We're taking the abstract and making it concrete, right? I still had to go into my own coaching, right? I've had my own coaching and still am under a coach. Because if your coach doesn't have a coach, they slacking. That's just the real. If your coach, if your leader doesn't have a mentor, if you as a leader don't have a mentor, you don't have a coach, you're slacking. And I say that with love because not just because you're slacking because you're not good enough, you're lacking the support you need to build your capacity because your eyes can only recognize so much. You need an outside perspective. You need somebody to partner with you to ideate and come up with solutions, right? Because now, this woman that I'm talking about, this director, she is able to give me testimonials that just make my heart shine. She told me I talked to her in August after school started and she told me how her staff, which is the social workers and the support staff for social emotional learning, they're the ones who are working with teachers, right? So I was doing a train the trainer model with her, and she was facilitating training for the team that she had, right? Because now they got a team, right? It keeps trickling down. They got a team of educators that they have to work with to build social emotional learning across a network, right? This was middle school, high school, elementary. But the work that we did in our retreats, right? The work that we did in our workshops, she was able to tell me how they were able to use some of the exercises that I modeled. See, I'm not telling you to model for your people on this journey. I'm not telling you to understand what it means to be a lifelong learner, and I'm not doing that work, right? I'm modeling for them, and she's modeling for them while they are now able to take it and share it and model it for the teachers they're working with. So now they're seeing systems being created in their school network. I'm not talking about one building. I'm talking about a whole charter network of multiple campuses in the Memphis, Tennessee area. And they're facing a lot of challenges. I've had to work through her emotional resilience and intelligence and problem solving when students were bringing guns to school. I had to work her through when teachers were bringing weapons to parent-teacher conference night, when you had suicide threats, when you had young people who are suffering with their own mental well-being. I've had to work her through how are we going to create systems that will support the social workers who are supporting the teachers and students in the building. Why? Because she understood this was a journey. She committed to a year, right? She committed to a year-long journey, and we're on the journey ongoing. And what did that do? She was able to recognize her capacity, and she brought me on the train. She brought me right along the journey with her, right? Where we're understanding how to facilitate professional learning through an engaging content, right? Not just giving educators and the staff members stuff to look at, but how are we going to take the research, the evidence-based frameworks and articles and things that were videos that we're watching of teachers in the classroom in real time? How are we going to take that back to your school building? And how are we going to figure out when what we did and we thought it worked and would work didn't work? Because, see, that's the part we don't want to realize. We want everything to be a quick fix. I talked about the microwave. We want everything to be perfect. You're working with human beings, y'all. You're working with adults who have experiences outside of your classroom that are also impacting their capacity in the classroom. You can't tell them to leave it at the door and they're taking care of their sick mother. You can't tell them to leave it at the door and they now had to adopt family members because their sister passed away or their brother passed away. You can't tell them to leave it at the door. But what you can do is equip yourself by partnering with and being on this lifelong journey of learning with the tools to be aware of my own emotions, my own emotional landscape. What informed my ways of being? What are my values? Who inspired my leadership? What leadership did I have at home? I took leaders, I got a few leaders from another network here in Arkansas, and they are a part of my Leading with Soul coaching cohort. Right now, I'm only doing that cohort with schools and districts that have contracted me privately, but I will be opening that at the beginning of 2024 to any educators who want to invest in their own professional development. And trust me, I've had teachers invest in their own professional development through the Teaching from the Soul cohort, and they got their schools to pay, right? So people have figured out a way that I'm not going to wait on the school district. I'm not going to wait on my leadership to decide for me what I need to grow. I am going to take this journey personally, right? And I am going to decide what I need. So in this cohort, I've got about 10 leaders. They're principals, assistant principals, instructional coaches, and curriculum directors. And we're all going back to the basics. We're looking at what our personal values are. We're creating collective values, and they're going back this week. I'm so proud of them. Many of them are going back this week to take to their team the framework we developed for how to create collective values and systemize it. So that is the framework and protocol for how we make decisions. See, we're making decisions just pulling things out of the air. We're pulling straws out of a hat. We're just grasping at the clouds, hoping for a right solution, hoping for something to go well. And we keep seeing the same thing. We keep seeing the same results that are not serving our students. We keep seeing teachers quit. I'm seeing it every week on social media. Another teacher quit. We're at the beginning of the year. And the school that I'm working with that I was just talking about, one week we had to postpone because they had several teachers quit in the building. That means something is wrong. That means something's not working. Somebody's not feeling supported. Somebody's not feeling valued. Somebody's not getting the tools they need to be successful in front of our babies. So what does that look like amidst a substitute teacher shortage? It means our young people are being disenfranchised. They're being disadvantaged This is what it all boils back down to. Your journey for leadership, especially culturally responsive school leadership, it always goes back to centering the babies. And I don't care if babies are 17-year-old high school students or 5-year-old kindergarten babies or 3-year-old pre-K children. Everything goes back to the babies. It all goes back to the babies. That's why your journey is so important. That's why you got to be on this journey for culturally responsive school leadership. Thank you, Robin. How you doing? We've got to get back to our own journey. So here are some tips as I get ready to close it on out. And if you got any questions, I want you to start dropping them in the comments, start dropping them in the chat wherever you're watching. Start dropping those comments and those questions in so that way I can support you and give you the best that I have. Okay. So let's think about this. When we're talking about culturally responsive school leadership, it always, tip number one, it always starts with you and it's always going to cycle back to you. To whom much is given, much is required. It's always going to start with you. No, you can't respond the way the teachers respond. You are the leader. No, you can't go there with a parent the way they go there with you. You're the leader. You got to be equipped. What does your leadership journey look like? Right? What does it mean for you to be on this journey? The journey has to start with you. So if you're not taking care of you, right? If you're not promoting you, if you're not moving forward and thinking about how am I feeding my soul as as a human, not just as a principal, not just as an assistant principal, not just as an instructional coach or a curriculum director or an instructional facilitator, whatever your role is, you as a human first. You as a human first. How is that working? Right? Because if that's not working, what's going to happen? You're not going to be on this journey. You're not on this journey. If it doesn't start with you and your soul, you're not on this journey. You're just doing work. If you don't know me yet, you're going to learn. I cut it straight with no chaser. Okay? Because we don't need the fluff. We need real deal conversation. If you're not doing the work from your soul, if you're not interrogating your ways of being, why did I say it the way that I said it? Why do I believe this decision is important? Why did I not include other stakeholders in my decision making process? Why did I tell people, other grown adults, what to do instead of collaborating with them on what to do? The journey starts with you. Number two, tip number two, denial is the enemy of growth. Denial is the enemy of growth. Sometimes we want to blame the teachers. They just don't want to stick to their planning time. They doing everything else during their planning time, but planning, right? We want to deny every little thing by coming up with other excuses. They really don't want to be involved in PD. They don't really want to teach the students in different ways. And we're denying our own capacity to lead them. When you lead people, you don't just tell folks what to do, y'all. You're not just telling folks what to do when you're leading them. When you are leading them, you are leading them on a pathway of lifelong learning, right? You are leading them to understand the importance of transparency. You are leading them to understand the importance of communication and healthy communication. You are leading them on how to effectively solve problems, how to mediate conflict. You're leading them to understanding that conflict is healthy in teams because it helps us identify problems and come together to come up with solutions. But if you deny everything, if people giving you feedback and you deny, oh, I don't really act like that. They just don't like me. Oh, I don't really do that. They just got a problem with me. They don't really want to do all the work. If you deny every piece of feedback, if you deny that you need to grow because you think you are already there, denial will be the enemy of your growth. And enemies don't want their opponent to progress forward. Enemies want to keep you stuck. Enemies don't want you to move. Why? Because enemies enjoy seeing you flustered. They enjoy seeing you frustrated. They enjoy you not having moments of celebration towards your growth as a leader. And guess who their number one enemy is? Denial. Denial, denial, denial. So, how do we get over denial? Here's tip number 3: check in with your team. That's how you know what your impact is. Check in with your team. If you are not doing regular and ongoing check ins, whether it's a survey, whether it's focus groups. So if you're a principal and you're over the 8th grade, right? And so you deal with the 8th grade teachers. If you don't get somebody else to facilitate a focus group where they can talk about problems or have them record an audio, I'm giving you free gems, y'all. Have you record and have them record an audio session of them answering feedback questions so they can talk and elaborate. If you don't give out surveys every month or every 9 weeks or every quarter, whatever your circular time is, if you don't do that, if you're not having one-on-one conversations with people that you have relationships with, right? Because some people may see you as a threat because you're the leader, not because you're mean, not because you've done something so wrong, just because of your title. Who you are as a leader poses a threat to some people, especially those who have not had good relationships with leaders, especially those who have not seen leaders be there to support their growth as a teacher or as a counselor or as a supporting staff member. So now you walk in with this title and you just trying to do your job. But there's a narrative, there's a schema, there's a script already set up in their mind about who you are and how you're going to show up. So all you can do is shift the narrative. How do you shift the narrative? Selective vulnerability, being open, right? These are the same, what I'm about to tell y'all, it's not even in my notes for this session. But what I'm about to drop on you are some gems for how to generate trust in the brain. And I give this to teachers all the time because we talk about building trust with young people so they're willing to take intellectual risk. But you want your teachers to take risks too. What does a risk look like? I'm coaching another young lady. We're on year 2. She's a teacher. She teaches ASL, American Sign Language, in a Texas high school, 9th grade. And she is in an environment where social emotional learning is not a norm. They're trying to bring in restorative practices, but they're doing it in a different way. I'm not going to even get into the nature of that. Okay. But she is doing something that is new, that is different. Social emotional learning, embedding it throughout her American Sign Language class. Because guess what? Young people who are learning a new language have to master confidence. If they don't master confidence, they won't try. But how do you get them to take that risk? Generate trust. Because in the brain, when our brain, the amygdala, I'm gonna give y'all a quick neuroscience. And if you know me, you know I love neuroscience, right? If you don't, you're gonna learn today. I love neuroscience. And what neuroscience tells us in the brain, there's a part in the back part of our brain called the amygdala. It is the safety threat detection center of the brain. Safety Threat Detection Center. It is there to determine if that is something I can be comfortable, relaxed, and engaged with, or is there something I need to fight, flight, freeze, or appease for protection, right? So in her mind, and then it happens with a lot of teachers, is the status quo of doing school in the normal way, coming in. These are the objectives, young people. This is the work we're going to do. Let's get to the work. Let's do the work. Let's do the vocabulary. Let's go through it in a normal way of being. So now we're talking about bringing in social emotional learning directly and embedded into her content, which is truly culturally responsive teaching, right? Because we're working with the effectual brain, the limbic region of the brain. What we have to do is she had to work beyond her own safety threat detection center. But what did that mean as a leader? Because as a consultant, I'm a leader. So I'm her coach. So I had to develop trust with her where she was willing to take the risk. And guess what? It didn't happen the first time. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it for y'all. It did not happen the first time. We had a whole beautiful lesson plan of how to talk about. We brought in the young lady who did sign language during the Super Bowl last year. It's a young black, I think she's a college student, and she speaks. She's a part of the ASL deaf and hard of hearing community, and she did some interviews about confidence and what it took for her to be able to get on that stage and perform to Rihanna, and she can't even hear the music. Like, I need y'all to realize how complex that job was for this young lady. This was not a hearing young lady. This is a young lady who's deaf and hard of hearing, actually deaf, right? And she talked about confidence. So what did we do? She's a young woman. She's a black woman. She's got long nails. Like the kids, the high schoolers, ninth graders, they can relate to her because she looks like them. So what did we do? I would send her reels. I would send her YouTube videos of this young lady interviewing about her experience. And what did we do with that? We used that as the first 5 to 10 minutes of her class period. And students got to reflect on what they noticed and how they could name it in scope of confidence, in scope of social emotional learning. Like, what was her self-awareness like? How did she work through self-management? What was the social awareness being a Black deaf woman? The intersectionality of her identities that place her in a position to normally be marginalized and otherized, right? How did she contend with that? And so they used that, and then they were able to now thread confidence throughout their lesson. So not only are they doing content, they're talking about what they feel right now, how they anticipate the struggle of the lesson. Then they worked with each other. So now we're talking about relationship skills. They analyze the mental decisions that they had to make in order to move past the fear, right? Because she's equipping them. This is what you do if you're feeling frustrated. This is what you do if you're feeling nervous. What do y'all do? Right? It's not just her. Because I'm not speaking to her as though I know all the things. I'm collaborating with her. What are some ideas we can formulate to work this lesson? So now she's doing that with her young people. What are some ways of being we can normalize to work through frustration so we can meet our learning target? Y'all, it's the embody, model, share principle that I tell every client I'm working with. You got to embody this journey of cultural responsiveness, right? Because once you embody it, now you can model it to the people you serve, whether they're instructional staff, because you're a leader, whether they're students, because you're a teacher, whether they're other admin, because you're a principal, whether they're principals, because you're a superintendent, whether they're department leads, because you're an instructional coach, or because you're a department leader or facilitator. It matters, right? So doing that work with her, what did I do? The same thing I'm telling y'all to do in my third tip. I checked in with her. I got a testimonial from her, and she's able to articulate how our work gave her the confidence to work on this work in her classroom. It wasn't that she didn't want to do the work with her kids. You know, some people say, oh, they don't want to do social emotional learning. They don't want to do culturally responsive. What really is at the foundation of it all, to be real, they lack the confidence and the competence. And that comes from a lack of positive experiences, right? That comes from a lack of positive experiences. So we're not building space, first of all, to generate trust. So that means I had to use vulnerability to talk about the times where, in my experience, creating social emotional learning programs in a summer school with kids who don't want to be in summer school. And we know the kids that are generally in summer school, a lot of them have behavior problems because they're not engaged in the school lesson, because a lot of times they was getting put out, right? So those are keys I had to create a social emotional learning project with and collaborate with the teachers on how to use this in summer school so we can make sure those students succeeded enough to go on to the next grade in summer school. So I'm talking about my failures, but how I used emotional resilience and intelligence to recognize my own emotions enough to work through them and not let them keep me stagnant. This is the journey that I'm talking about. Because guess what? She tried it out and it worked last year, but now this year she got a new set of kids. So we're going to the drawing board and we're working with these new set of kids. And it's not a whole lot of new stuff, but it's just new personalities, new identities that she's got to learn and get to know. And she texted me one day and she said, it bombed. It was horrible. I'm so frustrated. But I encouraged her. I took her back to the drawing board. And guess what? We meet on Monday. So I'm gonna share the testimonial on all the sites, right? Because I told her I tried to record her when we were talking and my voice recorder didn't work. But the testimonial she shared was that she was so proud that she didn't give up. She was so proud that she didn't stop and try again, right? That she didn't stop the work and didn't try again. She was so proud that guess what that is? Building her confidence. Guess what that is? Building her competence. Leaders, that's what your job is. You're supposed to be building their confidence and their competence as leaders. Because if you're not doing that, you're going to get them not wanting to buy in. You're going to get the frustration. You're going to get the thousand questions about why I even need to do this. Do you know the kids that I'm dealing with? Do you understand what I'm working with? And you're going to get the resistance. You're going to get resistance. And resistance will become a norm if you don't do the work on you first. That means understanding that this is a journey, right? Understanding, and it's a joy to continue in the work I do and helping leaders develop their own personal and professional capacity to lead. And that's leading whether you're an instructional coach, you're a principal, you're a school leader, you're a teacher, you're an educational consultant. If you don't know how to build their confidence and competence, you're lacking. They're not going to call you back because the thing you thought was a good idea, which probably is a wonderful idea, you didn't consider their emotional intelligence and resilience. You didn't consider what they needed internally in their soul to navigate the resistance after they tried the thing you said was good to try. Even if the research backs you up. That's why we got the same result. That's why we're going to keep having the same gaps. We're going to keep having the same result. It's gonna stay the absolute same. Why? Because if we don't get to the soul of the matter, if we don't understand how important it is to be committed to this journey, and if you don't have a coach as a leader helping you to coach for emotional intelligence, emotional resilience, and equity, because that's what culturally responsive school leadership is about, it's not gonna work. So if there are any questions, I want you to drop them into the chat. Thank you for those who are commenting in the chat, who are giving us feedback. Thank you for being present. Thank you for being here in this space. I implore you to share this live with a school leader, especially somebody who's so frustrated and it's about to be October. They've only been in here for a month. They don't want to keep working. They're tired already. They can't wait for Thanksgiving or the November break. They can't wait for December to have those 2 weeks off. I need you to send this to them. I need you to send them this live because they need to be able to check in and understand. You got to get on board for the journey, baby. You got to get on board for the journey. So let's do a quick recap. Culturally responsive school leadership is the foundation for creating culturally responsive schools. If you put the onus only on the teachers, it will fail. It will fail. If teachers are the only ones responsible for being culturally responsive, if they're the only ones responsible for being culturally responsive, it will fail. So culturally responsive leadership has to be the foundation for creating culturally responsive schools. Here's another recap. Leaders, you should be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Thermometers you put in your mouth to test the temperature. Thermostats, you move the needle to set the temperature. You set the temperature in your school building. So if you are not well, if you are not doing the work on your own growth, if you are not on your own journey, guess what? It will be reflected in the culture of your school. Number three, recap. Model an identity of lifelong learning. Model to your people. Be transparent. If this is new for you, let the people know. They will honor your transparency. They will honor your vulnerability. Let them know this is new and you are learning with them. We are a team for the betterment of our students, of our young people, for the engagement of their families and communities. Be transparent about your flaws. If you mess up, call it out. Don't let somebody else on the school team call out your error. You beat them to the punch. You call out where you messed up. Okay? Culturally responsive school leadership is transparent about your flaws, your errors, and letting the people know I need your partnership. I need your genius. I need your expertise to help me collaborate, improve, and solve problems. Okay? If you want more guidance, if you want more help, if you need a coach, if you need support, reach us. You can message us at info@scholarsforthesoul.com. That is info. I'll put it here on Facebook. Info@scholarsforthesoul.com. You can send us an email. If you are on LinkedIn, you are on Facebook, DM us. Send us a DM. We respond to our DMs. And let me know I need support. And we can talk about how to support you. I've got a course that's joined together with coaching, right? And I'll be opening up that course in January, but I do one-on-one coaching, right? I have a Soul Scholar community, scholarsforthesoul.com/links with the S on the end. Scholarsforthesoul.com/links, right? And you can join our community. I'm sending out emails. I'm so proud of myself because that was not a strong suit for me, staying connected with my email community, but I have been doing it. I've got some emails scheduled to go out. I'm being transparent with y'all about my flaws, right? Because it's where I want to grow. And I want you to help me be accountable. Because as a leader of this space that I'm blessed to serve in, I need accountability. I need partnership, right? So go to any of our sites, Dr. Mail underscore Soul Scholar, Dr. Mail underscore Soul Scholar, Dr. Mail underscore Soul Scholar is on Instagram. You can find me there. Follow us, join us. The link is in the bio for all the things that you need. And join us for our next session. So I'm going to go live. And guess what the topic is going to be? I want y'all to get ready for the topic. I'm really excited about the topic. The topic for our next session is going to be setting SMART goals for equity growth. We hear about SMART goals a lot in any kind of workspace, but these are going to be for equity growth. So, how can you grow your equity goals so that you're not just talking about equity, but equity is your vehicle towards justice, towards healing, towards love in your school buildings. So we're going live on that topic of setting SMART goals for equity growth on September 30th, this coming Saturday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm committed just showing up before you all every week. It may be a different day of the week, but I'll let you know if you're in the community, you'll get an email, you'll get the reminder. So make sure to go to scholarsforthesoul.com/links, and that will allow you to scroll down and join our community so you don't miss any notifications. I know 8 a.m. is bright and early, but you can watch it from anywhere or you can watch the replay. And I'm going to drop some more actionable gems. I gave some gems on how to tap in to stakeholder feedback. So if you missed it, go back and watch the replay. How to tap in to building your team as a leader. Talked about surveys and focus groups and some things you can be doing there. And we're going to keep dropping gems. So join me next Saturday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time for setting smart goals for equity growth. Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you on next Saturday.